Maya pushed open the heavy glass doors of the downtown medical clinic, her arms trembling as she held her 3-week-old daughter close to her chest. The little bundle in the faded pink blanket was finally quiet, after what felt like hours of crying during their appointment. Maya's body still ached from childbirth, and today's visit hadn't brought the reassurance she'd hoped for. The doctor had been kind but direct about her recovery taking longer than expected. The afternoon sun hit her face as she stepped outside, but dark clouds were gathering overhead. Maya paused at the top of the concrete steps, trying to gather her strength for the walk to the bus stop. Her legs felt weak, like they might give out at any moment. She'd barely slept in weeks, and the constant worry about her baby's health was wearing her down more than she wanted to admit. As she took her first step down, Maya felt that familiar dizziness wash over her. She'd been experiencing these episodes since giving birth, but the doctor said it was normal for new mothers. She gripped the metal handrail tighter and took another careful step. The concrete was still wet from an earlier shower, something she didn't notice until it was too late. Her foot slipped on the third step down. Time seemed to slow as Maya felt herself falling forward. Her only thought was protecting her baby. She twisted her body, pulling her daughter tight against her chest as her knees hit the concrete hard. Her shoulder scraped against the rough steps, and she felt a sharp pain shoot through her ankle as it bent in an unnatural direction. Maya's purse flew open, scattering its contents across the wet pavement. Her phone skittered down several steps, the screen cracking against the concrete with a sound that made her heart sink. Coins rolled in different directions and the few bills she had fluttered in the wind, but none of that mattered as much as the tiny cry that came from the blanket in her arms. "Lily, oh baby, are you okay?" Maya whispered, carefully checking her daughter for any signs of injury. The infant was crying but seemed unharmed, protected by her mother's instinctive embrace. Maya tried to stand but immediately collapsed back down as her ankle screamed in pain. Blood was seeping through her jeans from her scraped knees, and her shoulder felt like it was on fire. A businessman in an expensive suit walked past, glancing at Maya with mild annoyance as if she was blocking his path. She looked up at him hopefully, but he quickly looked away and picked up his pace. Maya felt invisible, like she was just another piece of urban debris to step around. "Excuse me," Maya called out weakly to a woman in scrubs who was walking by. "Could you please help me? I think I hurt my ankle pretty bad." The woman paused for just a moment, looked at Maya sitting on the ground with her crying baby, then shook her head and kept walking. Maya couldn't believe it. This was someone who worked in healthcare, someone who should understand. More people passed by. A group of college students actually stopped, but instead of helping, they pulled out their phones and started recording. Maya heard one of them say, "Oh my God, this is so crazy. Are you getting this?" She wanted to scream at them, to tell them she wasn't entertainment, but she didn't have the energy. She just covered her face with her free hand and tried to make herself smaller. The rain started again, light at first, but quickly getting heavier. Maya pulled the thin hospital blanket over her baby's head, trying to keep her dry. The drops soaked through her own thin sweater, making her shiver. She looked around desperately, hoping someone, anyone, would show even a tiny bit of human kindness. An elderly woman with a grocery cart approached, and Maya felt a flutter of hope. Surely someone's grandmother would help a young mother in distress. But the woman just clucked her tongue disapprovingly and said, "Young girls these days always getting themselves into trouble. Should have thought about this before having a baby." The words stung worse than Maya's physical pain. Maya tried to gather the scattered contents of her purse with one hand while holding Lily with the other. Her cracked phone screen was completely black now. Even if she could have called someone, who would she call? Her mother hadn't spoken to her since she'd announced her pregnancy. Her sister lived 2 states away and barely made ends meet herself. The baby's father had disappeared the moment he learned about the pregnancy, leaving Maya to face everything alone. A security guard from the office building next door approached Maya. For a moment she thought he might offer assistance. Instead, he crossed his arms and said, "You can't sit here all day. This is private property, and you're making people uncomfortable. I'm going to have to ask you to move along." Maya looked up at him in disbelief. "Sir, I'm hurt. I fell and I think my ankle might be broken. My baby needs to eat soon and I don't have a way to get home. Please, I just need a few minutes to figure out what to do." The guard's expression didn't soften. "Look, I'm sorry about your situation, but I've got a job to do. If you don't move in the next 10 minutes, I'll have to call the police. They can sort this out." He walked away, leaving Maya feeling more hopeless than ever. She looked at her watch through tears. The clinic had been her last appointment of the day, and it was already past 5 o'clock. The buses on her route stopped running at 6, and she was still 20 minutes away from the stop. Even if she could somehow walk on her injured ankle, she'd never make it in time. Maya counted the wet bills she'd managed to collect from the ground. $12. Not enough for a taxi, especially not for the crosstown trip to her apartment. She thought about the empty refrigerator waiting for her at home, the stack of overdue bills on her kitchen table, and the eviction notice she'd received last week. Lily's crying grew stronger, and Maya knew her daughter was getting hungry. She'd need to feed her soon, but where? The clinic was locked up tight, its parking lot emptying as the last employees headed home. The office building wouldn't let her inside, and she couldn't exactly nurse a baby on the street in the rain. As the minutes ticked by and more people passed without so much as a second glance, Maya felt herself breaking down. This wasn't how she'd imagined motherhood would be. She'd dreamed of family support, of community, of people caring about a young mother trying to do her best. Instead, she was sitting on cold concrete in the rain, injured and alone, while dozens of people treated her like she didn't exist. The darkness was settling in, and Maya realized she might be spending the night on these steps with nowhere else to go. She pulled her baby closer and whispered, "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Mommy's going to figure this out somehow." But deep down, she wondered if she really could. Maya had been sitting on those cold concrete steps for what felt like forever, watching the world go by as if she didn't exist. Her ankle had swollen to twice its normal size, and every small movement sent sharp pains shooting up her leg. Lily had settled into an uneasy quiet, but Maya could tell her daughter would need to eat soon. The little sounds she made were getting more urgent, and Maya knew she was running out of time. A well-dressed woman in her 40s approached the steps, talking loudly on her phone about some business meeting. Maya took a deep breath and tried to make eye contact. "Excuse me," she called out softly. "Could you please help me? I fell and hurt my ankle, and I have a newborn baby." The woman glanced down at Maya for just a split second, then deliberately looked away. She actually moved her phone to the other ear and walked faster, as if Maya might be contagious. Maya watched her expensive heels click against the pavement, each step taking her further from someone who desperately needed help. 20 minutes passed. Maya tried to shift her position to relieve the pressure on her injured ankle, but any movement made the pain worse. A group of teenagers walked by laughing and joking with each other. They looked so carefree, so happy. Maya remembered being their age once before life got so complicated. "Hey," Maya called out to them. "I'm sorry to bother you, but could one of you maybe help me call someone? My phone is broken and I'm hurt." The teenagers stopped and looked at her. For a moment, Maya felt hopeful. These kids grew up with smartphones and social media. Surely they understood how connected people should be. One of the boys nudged his friend and started laughing. "Dude, look at this. She's like asking us for help." They pulled out their phones, but instead of making a call, they started taking pictures and videos. "This is going straight to TikTok," one of the girls said. "Look, there's a lady just sitting on the steps with a baby. This is so random." Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. "Please don't record me," she said, trying to cover her face. "I just need help, not to be turned into some viral video." But they kept filming, making jokes about her situation. One of them even did a little dance in front of her before they finally walked away, still laughing. The rain had stopped, but the concrete was still cold and damp. Maya could feel it seeping through her jeans, making her even more uncomfortable. Her shoulder ached from where she'd scraped it during the fall, and she was starting to feel dizzy again. She hadn't eaten anything since breakfast, and that felt like a lifetime ago. An older man with a cane was walking slowly toward the bus stop. Maya thought maybe someone who understood physical struggles would be more sympathetic. "Sir," she said as politely as she could manage, "I fell down these steps and I think I might have broken my ankle. Could you please help me figure out how to get home?" The man stopped and looked at her with disapproval written all over his face. "Young lady," he said in a stern voice, "when I was your age, we didn't have children until we were married and financially stable. This is what happens when people make poor life choices. You got yourself into this mess, you can get yourself out of it." Maya felt like she'd been slapped. Here she was, hurt and vulnerable, holding her innocent baby, and this stranger felt it was his place to judge her entire life based on what he could see in that moment. "Sir, I'm not asking for money or anything like that. I just need help getting home safely with my baby." But he was already walking away, shaking his head and muttering something about kids these days. Maya wanted to shout after him, to tell him that she'd been working 2 jobs until the day she went into labor, that she'd tried her best to prepare for this baby, that sometimes life doesn't go according to plan, no matter how hard you try. But what was the point? He'd already made up his mind about who she was. A woman in nursing scrubs walked past, and Maya's heart jumped with hope. Someone in the medical field would surely understand the situation. "Ma'am, please," Maya called out. "I just came from the clinic and I fell. I'm hurt and I have a newborn baby who needs to eat soon. Could you possibly help me?" The nurse paused and looked at Maya, and for a moment Maya thought this would finally be her rescue. But then the woman just shook her head. "Honey, I just got off a 12-hour shift. I've seen enough drama for one day. There are social services for situations like this. You should call them." She walked away without even slowing down. Maya couldn't believe it. This was someone who chose a career helping people, someone who understood medical emergencies and human suffering. Yet she'd walked away just like everyone else. Maya felt more alone than ever before. The sun was getting lower in the sky and the evening rush was beginning. More people passed by, but Maya was losing the courage to ask for help. Each rejection felt like a weight on her chest, making it harder to breathe. She started to wonder if there was something wrong with her, something that made her invisible or unworthy of basic human kindness. A security guard from the building next door came back out. Maya recognized him from earlier when he'd told her she couldn't stay. "I thought I told you to move along," he said, sounding irritated. "Please," Maya said, her voice breaking. "I've been trying to find help for over an hour. I can't walk on this ankle, my phone is broken, and I don't have money for a taxi. I'm not trying to cause trouble. I just don't know what to do." The guard looked around nervously, like he was worried about his boss seeing him talking to her. "Look, I sympathize, but I can't have you camping out here. It makes the tenants nervous. If you don't leave in the next few minutes, I'm going to have to call the police. They can take you to a hospital or wherever you need to go." Maya knew that calling the police might mean getting her baby taken away, especially if they thought she was homeless or couldn't provide proper care. The thought terrified her more than anything else. "Please don't call them. I'll figure something out." But she had no idea what that something would be. Lily was starting to fuss again, making those little whimpering sounds that meant she was getting hungry. Maya looked at her watch. It was almost 6:30. The buses had stopped running her route half an hour ago. Even the downtown area was emptying out as people headed home to their families, their warm houses, their normal lives. Maya tried to imagine what those people were going home to. Maybe a partner who would ask about their day. Kids who would run to greet them. A dinner already cooking in the oven. A comfortable bed to sleep in. All the things that seemed impossibly far away from where she sat on those cold steps. She looked down at Lily, who was starting to cry more seriously now. "I know, baby girl," Maya whispered. "You're hungry and tired and you want to go home. Mommy wants that too." But home felt like a different world from where she was now, surrounded by hundreds of people who seemed to see right through her. Maya was running out of options and running out of time. Lily's crying had turned from gentle whimpering to full-blown wails that echoed off the building walls. Maya tried bouncing her gently, tried whispering soothing words, but nothing was working. Her baby was hungry, cold, and probably sensing her mother's stress. The evening traffic was getting heavier, and Maya watched car after car pass by. She wondered what it would be like to have a car, to never have to worry about bus schedules or walking long distances with a baby, to have the freedom to just drive home whenever you needed to. It seemed like such a simple thing, but right now it felt like an impossible luxury. Maya was seriously considering crawling to the bus stop, injured ankle and all, when she heard the soft purr of an expensive car engine. A sleek black sedan pulled up to the curb right in front of the clinic steps. For a moment, Maya thought maybe someone was just picking up a passenger, or perhaps a doctor was leaving late from work. The driver's window rolled down slowly, and Maya could see a man inside, probably in his mid-40s, wearing a simple but well-made jacket. He had kind eyes and a concerned expression that was so different from all the faces that had looked right through her for the past hour. "Are you okay?" he called out through the window. His voice was gentle, not demanding or judgmental like the security guards had been. "I saw you sitting there when I drove by earlier and you're still here. Is something wrong?" Maya felt a flutter of hope mixed with caution. After so many rejections, she was almost afraid to believe that someone might actually care. "I fell down the steps," she said, her voice hoarse from trying not to cry. "I hurt my ankle pretty bad and my phone broke. I've been trying to get help for over an hour, but—" She gestured weakly at the busy street full of people who had ignored her. The man turned off his car and got out. He was dressed nicely but not flashy, the kind of person who clearly had money but didn't need to show it off. As he walked closer, Maya could see the genuine concern in his face. It was such a contrast to everyone else who had looked at her like she was an inconvenience or an eyesore. "My name's David," he said, approaching slowly so he wouldn't startle her or the baby. "I'm not trying to be nosy, but you look like you're in real trouble. Are you hurt badly?" Maya felt tears spring to her eyes at the simple kindness in his voice. "I think my ankle might be broken," she admitted. "And my baby Lily, she's hungry and needs to eat soon. I don't have a way to get home and I don't have anyone to call." The words came tumbling out, all the fear and desperation she'd been holding back for hours. David crouched down to her level, careful not to invade her space but close enough that she could see the sincerity in his expression. "How long have you been sitting here?" he asked. "Since about 5:30, Maya said, glancing at her watch. "Maybe longer. People keep walking by, but no one will help. The security guard said he'd call the police if I don't leave, but I can't even stand up properly." David's jaw tightened slightly, and Maya could see a flash of anger cross his face. Not at her, but at the situation, at all the people who had failed to show basic human decency. "That's not right," he said firmly. "Someone should have helped you hours ago." He stood up and looked around at the busy street, shaking his head in disbelief. "Let me help you to my car," he said. "It's warm inside and we can figure out what you need from there. Does that sound okay?" Maya hesitated for just a moment. Her mother had always warned her about accepting help from strangers, especially men. But what choice did she have? She was injured, her baby was crying, and night was falling. Sometimes you had to take a leap of faith. "Okay," she whispered. "Thank you." David was incredibly gentle as he helped her to her feet. He let her lean on him while she hopped on one foot toward the car, and he made sure she was steady before letting go. Maya hadn't realized how cold she'd gotten sitting on those concrete steps until she felt the warmth from David's heated car seats. "Oh my God," she breathed as she settled into the passenger seat with Lily in her arms. "This feels like heaven." The car was immaculate but not intimidating. There were no flashy gadgets or over-the-top luxury features, just clean comfort and blessed warmth. David got back in the driver's seat and immediately turned up the heat even more. He reached into his console and pulled out a bottle of water, still sealed. "Here, you look like you could use this," he said, handing it to Maya. She accepted it gratefully and took a long drink. She hadn't realized how thirsty she'd become during her ordeal. "I can't believe you stopped," she said, looking at David with wonder. "I was starting to think that maybe people just don't help each other anymore." David's expression grew sad. "I'm so sorry that happened to you," he said. "There's no excuse for people just walking by when someone clearly needs help, especially someone with a baby." He paused for a moment, seeming to consider his words. "Can I ask you something? What made you think of your mother when you were sitting out there?" Maya was surprised by the question. She hadn't mentioned her mother to David. "How did you know I was thinking about her?" "I saw you looking at your phone earlier like you were debating whether to make a call," David explained. "And you had this expression on your face like you were weighing something difficult." "I've seen that look before." Maya sighed and adjusted Lily in her arms. Her daughter had finally stopped crying and was starting to relax in the warm car. "My mom and I haven't spoken in months. She didn't approve of me having a baby so young, especially without being married. We had this huge fight, and she told me I was making the biggest mistake of my life." David nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes the people we love the most are the hardest to ask for help," he said. "They have all these expectations and opinions about how we should live our lives." "Exactly," Maya said, surprised by how well he understood. "I kept thinking about calling her while I was sitting there, but I knew she'd just lecture me about how I got myself into this mess. And honestly, part of me was afraid she might just hang up on me." "That must be incredibly lonely," David said softly, "especially when you're dealing with something as big as being a new mother." Maya felt fresh tears coming to her eyes. It was such a relief to talk to someone who didn't judge her, who seemed to actually understand how complicated family relationships could be. I never imagined it would be this hard, she admitted. I thought I had everything figured out, but then everything just fell apart so quickly. David started the car and adjusted the mirrors. Where do you live? He asked. Let's get you and Lily home where you can rest and take care of that ankle. As they drove through the city, Maya found herself opening up to David in a way she hadn't with anyone in months. There was something about his calm, non-judgmental presence that made her feel safe enough to be honest about her struggles. The drive to Maya's apartment took about 20 minutes through the city traffic, and she found herself relaxing for the first time in hours. David was an easy person to talk to. He didn't ask nosy questions or make her feel like she had to explain her entire life story. Instead, he shared a little about himself, how he'd grown up in a single-parent household, and remembered his own mother struggling to make ends meet. My mom used to say that accepting help wasn't giving up, David mentioned as they stopped at a red light. She said it was just giving yourself a chance to get back on your feet. It took me years to really understand what she meant by that. When they finally pulled up outside Maya's apartment building, David's expression grew concerned. The building was old and run down, with broken security lights and graffiti covering the front entrance. One of the main doors was hanging off its hinges, and there were people loitering around the parking area who didn't look particularly friendly. Is this where you live? David asked gently, trying not to sound judgmental. Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. I know it's not much, she said quickly, but it's what I can afford right now. The rent is cheap and it's close to where I used to work. She didn't mention that even the cheap rent was becoming impossible to manage with no income coming in. David helped Maya out of the car and up the 2 flights of stairs to her apartment, letting her lean on him when her ankle became too painful. She was grateful he was there because the stairwell was dark. Half the light bulbs were burned out and hadn't been replaced in months. When Maya unlocked her apartment door, David couldn't help but notice that the lock was barely hanging on. The doorframe looked like someone had tried to break in at some point, and the wood was splintered around the edges. Maya, he said carefully, this lock isn't going to keep anyone out. Have you had problems with break-ins? Maya sighed as she limped inside. A few weeks ago, someone tried to get in while I was sleeping. The police said there wasn't much they could do unless someone actually succeeded in breaking in. The landlord keeps saying he'll fix it, but she shrugged helplessly. David looked around the small apartment, and his heart broke a little more with each detail he noticed. The place was clean. Maya clearly tried to keep it nice despite everything, but it was almost completely empty. There was a small couch that looked like it came from a thrift store, a tiny TV sitting on a cardboard box, and not much else. The kitchen was just a few cabinets and an old refrigerator that was humming loudly like it might give out at any moment. Can I get you something to drink? Maya offered, though she felt embarrassed knowing her refrigerator was nearly empty. I think I have some water and maybe some crackers. David followed her into the kitchen area, and when Maya opened the refrigerator, he could see it contained just a few condiment packets, half a loaf of bread, and a carton of milk that was probably close to its expiration date. On the counter there was a stack of bills, some marked final notice in red letters. Maya, David said softly, when was the last time you had a real meal? Maya closed the refrigerator quickly, feeling ashamed. I eat, she said defensively. I've been focused on making sure I have formula for Lily if I can't breastfeed, and paying the rent. Food for me isn't really the priority right now. David nodded, understanding more about Maya's situation than she'd probably intended to reveal. He'd grown up poor himself, and he recognized the signs. The way she tried to make everything seem okay, the careful rationing, the pride that made it hard to admit when things were really bad. I have an idea, David said, sitting down on the couch and speaking in a way that didn't make Maya feel like a charity case. I run a small tech company, and we're always looking for people who can handle customer service calls from home. The pay is decent, and you can set your own hours around Lily's schedule. Would you be interested in something like that? Maya's eyes lit up, but then clouded with doubt. I don't have much experience with tech stuff, she said. And I don't even have a working computer right now. That's not a problem, David said. The job is mostly just talking to people who have questions about our software. You seem like someone who's good with people, and you can learn the technical stuff as you go. As for the computer, we provide all the equipment our remote workers need. Maya sat down carefully, favoring her injured ankle. You'd really give me a job. You barely know me, David smiled. Sometimes you can tell a lot about a person by how they handle a crisis. You protected your baby when you fell. You kept trying to find help even when people treated you badly. And you're still thinking about others even though you're hurt and exhausted. Those are exactly the kind of qualities I look for in employees. For the first time in weeks, Maya felt a flicker of real hope. I'd be very interested. When could I start? How about we get you healed up first? David suggested. That ankle needs to be looked at by a doctor, and you need some time to rest and recover. In the meantime, I can have someone from our IT department drop off a laptop and get you set up with everything you'll need. Maya felt overwhelmed by his kindness. I don't understand why you're doing all this for me, she said, tears starting to form in her eyes. I'm a complete stranger. David was quiet for a moment, seeming to consider his words carefully. A few years ago, my business took off in a way I never expected, he said. I went from struggling to pay my bills to having more money than I knew what to do with. And I realized that success doesn't mean much if you don't use it to help people who are where you used to be. He paused, looking around Maya's sparse apartment. But more than that, I think everyone deserves a fair shot at building a good life. You're clearly intelligent and determined. You just need some support to get back on your feet. Maya wiped her eyes. I'm not looking for charity, she said firmly. I want to earn whatever help you give me. I wouldn't offer you a job if I didn't think you could do it well, David assured her. This isn't charity, it's an opportunity. But there are a few other things we should take care of first. He gestured toward the broken door lock. That lock needs to be fixed tonight. It's not safe for you and Lily to stay here with a door that won't secure properly. I can't afford to pay for repairs right now, Maya admitted reluctantly. Consider it a signing bonus, David said with a smile. I'll call a locksmith and have them come out tonight. And tomorrow, someone will deliver groceries and the computer equipment. You can start learning the software whenever you feel ready. Maya felt like she was in a dream. After months of everything going wrong, of feeling invisible and forgotten, someone was not only seeing her but actively trying to help her build a better life. I don't know how to thank you, she whispered. You don't need to thank me, David said. Just focus on getting better and taking care of yourself and Lily. The rest will work itself out. As David made calls to arrange for the lock repair and other necessities, Maya looked around her little apartment with new eyes. For the first time since Lily was born, she could imagine a future that didn't involve constant worry about money and safety. Maybe, just maybe, things were finally going to get better. 6 months had passed since that terrible day outside the medical clinic, and Maya could hardly believe how much her life had changed. She woke up in her new apartment, a cozy 2-bedroom place in a much safer neighborhood, to the sound of Lily babbling happily in her crib. At 8 months old, her daughter was starting to sit up on her own and had the brightest smile Maya had ever seen. Maya stretched and looked around her bedroom, still sometimes amazed that it was really hers. The walls were painted a warm yellow color, and there were actual curtains on the windows instead of the old bedsheet she used to hang up for privacy. On her dresser sat a framed photo from Lily's first professional photo shoot, a luxury Maya never thought she'd be able to afford. Good morning, sunshine, Maya said as she picked up Lily from her crib. Her daughter giggled and reached for Maya's face, a morning ritual that never failed to make Maya smile. Are you ready for breakfast? As Maya prepared Lily's bottle, she thought about her work schedule for the day. She'd been working for David's company for 5 months now, and she'd quickly become one of their top customer service representatives. What started as simple phone support had grown into training new employees, and even helping to improve their customer service procedures. David had been right. She was good with people, and the technical stuff had come more easily than she'd expected. Her kitchen was fully stocked now, something she still didn't take for granted. Maya made herself a proper breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, and fresh fruit, while Lily played in her high chair. There was a time when Maya would have felt guilty spending money on fresh fruit, but David had helped her understand that taking care of herself wasn't selfish. You can't pour from an empty cup, he'd told her, and slowly Maya had learned to believe that she deserved good things too. After breakfast, Maya got ready for something she'd started doing every Tuesday morning, volunteering at the women's shelter downtown. It was the same shelter she'd almost had to turn to herself when things were at their worst. Now, she spent her mornings there helping other young mothers navigate the system of social services, job training programs, and childcare resources. Maya loaded Lily into her car seat in her reliable used Honda Civic, another life change that still felt surreal. Having a car meant freedom in ways she'd never fully appreciated before. No more worrying about bus schedules or carrying a baby through unsafe neighborhoods at night. At the shelter, Maya was greeted by Jessica, the program coordinator who'd become a close friend. "Maya, perfect timing. We have a new mom who just came in yesterday, and I think you might be able to help her. She's about your age, and she's pretty scared about everything." Maya nodded, feeling that familiar mix of sadness and determination she experienced whenever she met someone in a situation similar to what hers used to be. She found the young woman, Rachel, sitting in the common area holding a tiny baby who couldn't have been more than a few weeks old. "Hi, Rachel," Maya said, sitting down nearby but not too close. "I'm Maya. I volunteer here on Tuesdays."
"How are you and your little one doing?"
Rachel looked up with eyes that Maya recognized immediately, the same fear, exhaustion, and desperate hope that Maya had felt not so long ago. "I'm okay, I guess," Rachel said quietly. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do next. Everything feels so overwhelming." Maya smiled gently. "I know that feeling. 6 months ago, I was sitting on some clinic steps with my daughter, hurt and alone, thinking my life was basically over. I couldn't imagine things ever getting better." "What changed?" Rachel asked, a spark of interest breaking through her exhausted expression. "Someone helped me," Maya said simply. "But more importantly, I learned that accepting help wasn't giving up. It was giving myself a chance to become the mother my daughter deserved." Maya shifted Lily to her other arm. "It's still hard sometimes, but now I have a job I love, a safe place to live, and most days I actually feel proud of what I'm building for us." Maya spent the next hour with Rachel, sharing practical information about job training programs, childcare assistance, and housing options. But more than that, she shared something more valuable: hope. She told Rachel about David's company and similar remote work opportunities, about the importance of taking small steps forward, even when the big picture seemed impossible. "The hardest part for me was learning to believe that I deserved good things," Maya admitted. "I kept thinking that because I was young and single and struggling, maybe this was just the life I was supposed to have. But that's not true. Every mother, every child deserves safety and opportunity, and a chance to thrive." After leaving the shelter, Maya picked up lunch and drove to meet David at a small cafe they'd discovered near his office. These monthly check-ins had become something Maya looked forward to. David had become not just her employer, but a mentor and friend who genuinely cared about her success. "You're glowing," David said as Maya settled into the booth across from him, Lily immediately charming everyone within a 10-foot radius with her babbled greetings. "The volunteer work is going well?" "Really well," Maya said, pulling out her phone to show him pictures from a job fair the shelter had organized the previous week. 3 women I've been working with got job interviews and 1 already received an offer. It's amazing what can happen when people just get connected to the right resources." David smiled, clearly proud of Maya's progress. "You know, I've been thinking about expanding our remote work program. We're getting so many applications from people in difficult situations, and I keep thinking about how much potential is out there just waiting for the right opportunity." "That would be incredible," Maya said enthusiastically. "I get calls from women all the time asking if we're hiring. There are so many people who just need someone to take a chance on them." As they talked about the future, both Maya's career growth and the possibility of her helping to manage the expanded program, Maya felt a deep sense of gratitude wash over her. Not just for David's initial help, but for everything that help had made possible. After lunch, Maya drove home to her afternoon routine of working while Lily napped. Her home office was set up in the second bedroom, with a comfortable chair, good lighting, and all the technology she needed to do her job well. Sometimes she'd catch herself looking around and remembering the empty apartment with the broken lock, the stack of unpaid bills, the constant fear about what would happen next. That evening, as Maya was giving Lily her bath, her phone rang. She was surprised to see it was her mother calling. Their relationship was still complicated, but they'd been slowly rebuilding it over the past few months. Maya's success and stability had helped her mother see that maybe Maya was stronger and more capable than she'd given her credit for. "Hi, Mom," Maya answered, putting the phone on speaker while she wrapped Lily in a fluffy towel. Hi, sweetheart. I was just calling to see how you're doing, and to tell you that I'm proud of you. Her mother's voice was warm in a way Maya hadn't heard in years. What you've built for yourself and Lily, it's really remarkable. Maya felt tears spring to her eyes. Thanks, Mom, that means a lot coming from you. I was wrong before, her mother continued. I thought you were making a mistake. But you've proven that sometimes the unexpected path can lead to something beautiful. I hope you know that. After they hung up, Maya looked down at Lily, who was playing contentedly with her bath toys. You know what, baby girl? Maya said softly. I think we're going to be just fine. More than fine, actually. I think we're going to have a really good life. As Maya got ready for bed that night, she thought about how one act of kindness from a stranger had changed everything. David stopping his car that day hadn't just rescued her from a bad situation. It had shown her what was possible when people looked out for each other. Now, every time Maya helped someone at the shelter or took a call from a struggling customer at work, she was passing that kindness forward. The world could be a hard place. Maya had learned that lesson well, but it was also full of people who were willing to help if you just knew how to find them. And sometimes, if you were really lucky, they found you first.